Welcome back. I am Dean Seddon, CEO and founder of Maverick, and I have a special guest with me today. I have Duarte Garrido, and hopefully I won't get in trouble for saying that wrong because I'm a British person and have no ability to pronounce anything. But Duarte, thank you for joining us. I'm going to intro you in a minute, but did I get it right?
You got it right, Dean.
Oh,
Thanks for having me.
God.
You got it. Let's just say you got it as right as I've ever heard in the UK.
Okay, that's hopefully a compliment for me.
Yeah.
But so Duarte is the head of social media for Coca-Cola HBC. And I know, Duarte, some people are going to go, what's Coca-Cola HBC? So maybe do you want to introduce yourself and tell people a little bit about what you do and who Coca-Cola HBC is?
Of course, yeah. So Coca-Cola HBC is a bottling partner of the Coca-Cola Company, and it's part of the Coca-Cola Company's ecosystem and sort of family of companies, if you were. And we are present in 29 markets, and we basically produce, bottle, and distribute Coca-Cola drinks. And we've actually expanded our portfolio beyond the Coca-Cola Company. So we have sort of outgrown our own family. And yeah, we're one of the biggest partners. We're mostly present in Europe, but parts of Africa as well. We're actually started as a company in Lagos, Nigeria, in the 50s,
Wow.
and then sort of expanded onto Europe. And yeah, here we are. You may question, why would a strategic bottling partner of the Coca-Cola Company want to hire a head of social and communicate? I mean, we are essentially a B2B2C business, right? So we produce the beverages, we sell the beverage to the retailers, and then the retailers sell them to the consumers. So we have no direct-to-consumer business. But having said that, we are a sustainability leader in our industry. So we have our own business objectives in terms of brand awareness and corporate reputation, particularly in the sustainability area. So that's where social media comes in full force.
So most of the people watching this won't be from your sector. So they'll be looking and going, okay, interesting concept, social media and B2B2C model. They'll have experienced probably you in the sense of the can of Coke they've bought. They will have it's probably come from you, but you're kind of, from the consumer's point of view, hidden behind a huge brand.
Correct.
So when you're now approaching social media, what's your objective as HBC, that is? What's your objective with social media?
So our larger objective in terms of communications is to be a trusted sustainability leader in the industry, in the beverage industry, to our stakeholders, and the leading 24/7 beverage partner to our customers, who are essentially those retailers, big and small. So those are basically our two sort of big pillars of communication. And social media obviously can play a huge part in that, because we can identify where those communities are, and we can cement our reputation and create a relationship of trust between us and that community. So I know you're a big fan of not creating echo chambers on social media, as I am. And that's not what we are aiming to do. We're aiming to create conversations and to cement our position as subject matter experts and thought leaders in the sustainability area within the beverage industry. And that is no small feat, because it is a crowded space, as you will, but we're very well positioned already as a company. So that really makes my job very easy, because we already have the laurels. We already have the DJSI and the S&P indexes sort of nailed down. So now what we need to do is to communicate that, and to cement our reputation within that area.
So let me. We might go a bit off topic, but that's all good, because I think we kind of said we might end up all over everywhere. There's kind of two or three broad categories of how people are using social media. I think three, very broad here, but there's the people who are using it for the kind of corporate communications, the shareholder stuff, yeah, the big like key messages of the whole company. I tend to find that a lot of that doesn't really engage the market per se, or the people, your stakeholders, other than it reassures. Yeah. Then you've got the people looking to go, actually, what we want to do is cement some key messages with our market. And then you've got the people who we want to sell to our market. Are you in the middle group there, or are you going for the top end group?
I would say we're a bit all over it. I don't think we're exclusively in one, operating in one of those pillars, because we do want to become sort of thought leaders, and for that we do need to do some key corporate communications. What we stand for as a company, who we are, what we do, what we want to achieve, our growth story, our objectives for the year. I mean, social media is a place where we can communicate to our stakeholders, including our shareholders, including investors. We also have a big venture capital sort of arm that we want to we want to communicate that part of the business on social media, find companies that are interested in creating new and exciting technologies around the sustainability area, mostly focused on packaging and recycling. So we're a bit all over the place. And we also obviously want to cement all our brand's reputation on social media, which will ultimately be for the eyes of the consumer, for the end consumer, not our clients, not the retailers, but the consumer who actually goes onto the Tesco's of the world and buys the Coke bottle or the Monster bottle, or goes on to Costa, buys the Costa coffee can. So all these brands, we represent them in a way as well.
Yeah.
So it's a tricky business on social, because we have to be a bit like an octopus and operate in many different areas.
And the downside now with social media, there's loads of great stuff you can do with social media, but the downside is, particularly as like when you build a brand and put a brand on social media, you've got your objective, but we're an organization of components, which are people, and we're trying to influence people and engage people and build a community of people around our social media accounts. But equally, and this is a kind of spin-off, the people within our companies can be just as big and powerful a voice in showing what a great company it is and all of that fun stuff, because more and more companies, I think, are really realizing the power of their people and the influence of their people, and how some of the kind of ways companies run can't work because social media allows people to connect and share stories and all that kind of stuff. You can't really hide behind, all of that stuff anymore. So what do you see are the interesting things and changes in social media? What are the things that you're thinking, this is interesting, which way is this going to go?
I guess it all ties back to trust, doesn't it? Because we are experiencing as a society a sort of epidemic of distrust, and that ultimately will result in, if you look at the Edelman Trust Barometer, the Deloitte study, they all look at how employees now choose their place of work, and especially following something as traumatic as the Great Resignation or the Great Reshuffle or what have you, we now have to be extra attentive to how we build that relationship of trust with our own people, with our workforce, with our employees, because ultimately that relationship of trust is what's going to keep them, it's what's going to retain our talent, right?
Yeah.
And I think a big part of that is to create company advocates on social media. So to empower our people to be influencers in a way, sort of our first, I'm not going to call them free because obviously we pay them salaries, but they are our organic influences. As a company, we need to cherish that, and we need to incentivize that and empower them to do so. So even today, I had a sort of what we call a capability booster, which was a big chat to dozens of employees within the Coca-Cola HPC company all around the world, where I taught them how to leverage LinkedIn to build their own personal brand.
Wow.
And that's excellent because, if they build their own personal brand, it's a win-win. It will help them, boost their career. It will help them find their voice, create their narrative. And I told them, listen, some people are cautious about personal brands, and they even have a sort of a bad feeling about them. They think it's too much of a sort of a braggy and self-centered
Billboard
concept.
brilliant white teeth thing.
Exactly. But what I told them is this: listen, you have a personal brand, whether you like it or not. It's all over the web. It's all over social media. You have a choice to control it. You have a choice to choose your narrative in the way the world perceives you, especially as a professional. You have a choice to shape your career and to shape your past career as well, and where you want to go. So take it, and we're here to help you as a company do that. We are here to empower you to do that. And in return, what we get are employees on social media who wear the shirt, who are proud of the company they work for, and who advocate on our behalf. So, I mean, it's a no-brainer, right?
Yeah.
And that creates that relationship of trust. And we don't control what they say at all. On the contrary, what we do is we give them the tools and we say, do with them whatever you want.
And it can be terrifying for a company to do that, though, isn't it? Because, you can't really, I mean, there's been, and I'm not going to get you into talking about other brands, so don't worry, but there has been instances on other platforms, not LinkedIn, that I've heard, where employees have been highly encouraged, shall we say, to present their employer in a particular way. And that's probably an extreme. But there is this risk that what if somebody says something that is misconstrued, or they never intended it the way they did, that can have an impact on the brand. And when I'm talking to companies about that, I just say, let's be realistic. Everything that we do could have that consequence. We could misjudge a TV commercial. We could misjudge a magazine advert, which brands do a lot. So why is this any different? The only difference is it's one person in their audience. It's not national television. And a lot of what happens on social media, unless it's really bad, is probably forgotten in 2 or 3 days.
Yeah, sometimes it isn't, though. But I do. I mean, you took the words out of my mouth. If you're serious about trust, and if you're serious about building a relationship of trust, then you have to accept that things can go wrong, and that's okay. But as a company, we have the obligation, but also the privilege, to be here to support our employees. And if they get flack on social media for something that we do as a company, or if they get flack on social media for something that we've communicated wrongly, then we're here to support them. If they do a faux pas themselves, and if that is damaging to the company's reputation, which to be honest, I don't see it happening unless you are a official spokesperson for the company, which we also tell our employees, listen, you're not.
Yeah.
Right. Unless you are, you're not. So you shouldn't feel the weight of that responsibility either. Whatever you say on social, it's on you.
Yeah.
Whether it's good, whether it's bad, you do not represent the company unless you're told that you do.
Yeah.
But we're here to support you. So if anything happens on social media that distresses an employee, I mean, I do have an open, I'm not going to say an open door policy, because unfortunately I don't have doors. I'm fully remote, but I do have an open window policy on Teams, so they can always reach out to me for advice and for help, and I'm happy to be there. And regarding these mistakes that can happen that are threats to the company's reputation, I mean, that's a constant on social media, right?
Mhm.
And the way I see it, you really, as a company, sit on either side of this fence. You're either really strict on the way you do social media communications. So
Yeah.
you have a very strict playbook and a guidebook and a tone of voice where you even select words that you can or can't use, which I find appalling. But you have something really, really strict, and then you sort of you make all your social media managers and your community managers abide by those very bot-like statements.
It's propaganda, right?
Yeah, it is. I mean, it's corporate gibberish, and what the result of that is that your company loses humanity, it loses authenticity, it loses that relationship of trust. Really, you fail to share any values or any purpose, and there's no relationship building. I mean, you might as well not be on social media, because what you're doing is you're treating social media like cold media.
Mhm. Well, I give you an example. I've been working with a financial institution for the last 6 months who've been very, very corporate, and there we worked with a one individual against a page with more than 1 million followers. Yeah, and we worked with one individual and focused their content and humanized their corporate stuff in one person. The one person has beat the company page countless times, hands down. Why? Because they've humanized. And I think there's something I want to pick up on what you said with the trust piece here. When we come to the trust piece you mentioned there, I think when a company goes to that kind of corporatized, strict, there's the engagement disappears, the interest disappears from the audiences. So you're controlling it at the cost of the crowd. But we've just been working with a company, financial services business, thousands of employees, more than 1 million followers on their LinkedIn. We worked with one individual, and the one individual was hands down beating the page just because we were humanizing the content that they were putting out. So I think there is a trust piece about that is pivotal on this humanized element. Yeah, it's real. Yeah, that's the first thing. But I also think, and this might seem really simple, but I think this is important. Integrity is basically where your values and your actions line up. And there's no trust without integrity. And there's no people won't see your integrity without consistency. In other words, if you go onto social media and just push a message once, it doesn't mean anything. It's once. People trust things because they've consistently seen the same message, the same actions, the same values playing out. How do you see that whole trust, consistency, and integrity thing fitting together on social?
Well, I think you're absolutely right, particularly when it comes to humanizing the brand. And sorry, I got my dog barking in the background.
You got an agreement there.
Yeah. He agrees. So I think you sort of hit the nail on the head there, in the sense that I agree that a corporate page can only go so far in terms of building that relationship of trust, because ultimately, whether you're a B2B or a B2C company, I like to say we're all people to people, right? There's always a person on the other side. So the best way for you to humanize a brand, the best way for you to create that relationship of trust is really to activate your people. Mm-hmm. Being your senior leadership, which should be active on social media and should be engaged on social media, but also, like we were talking about, your whole workforce and your customers as well. Mm-hmm. Because the pyramid of trust goes probably something like, people will trust your what your customers say first, what your employees say. People will trust what your customers say first, what your employees say second, and only then will they trust what your senior management team says. Mm-hmm. And then at the very bottom of that pyramid is the company, right? The brand. So you do have to take all of that into consideration. Mm-hmm. In terms of creating that authenticity, and like I was saying, as a company, you probably either sit on either side of this fence. Like I said, you're either very strict and create like a a guidebook and a playbook and make all your community managers, your social media managers abide by those, and
Yeah.
that's how you communicate and you sound bot like and authentic. Or you do like these sort of edgy brands do, like Innocent or like Oatly, which are great on social media because they sort of let their social media managers roam free.
Hmm.
They hire very well. They hire people who are already a culture fit, who
Hmm.
already understand the brand's tone of voice, who probably share the brand's tone of voice personally.
Hmm.
I've met a few of them and they do. They're all, people who are naturally funny and engaging. And then they just let them do whatever they want. They go
Hmm.
like, you know what? This is who we are as a brand. Now you can communicate for us. And there will be very little, uh,
Sometimes people
supervision.
sometimes people tie themselves in knots with tone and voice to the point where they don't know how to say anything.
Agreed.
Um,
Agreed.
I've seen one where it's like, we don't quote statistics of other brands or other, we don't quote statistics. We don't do this. We don't do that. We don't do that. I'm like, what do you do then? What do you
Yeah.
say?
Yeah. No, I think with tone of voice, it's more, I focus less on tone of voice, although tone of voice is important in very broad terms. We want to be supportive, we want to be inclusive, those are all things that brands in general should aim to be on
Mhm.
social. But I prefer another piece of document which I've sort of came up with myself, and that has helped me tremendously before building any social media strategy, which I call the social media statement of purpose. And that's a very simple document that just states who you want to be as a brand on social media, why you're there, what are your core values,
Mhm.
how you do not want to be perceived as. It's a sort of a do's and don'ts,
Yeah.
and because it's a very simple document, what it does is it serves as a guiding compass for all your social media managers, for
Mhm.
all your community managers to cross-check whatever they do, whatever content they put out, whatever
Yeah.
interaction they have on social. Cross-check it with your values as a brand and what your purpose
Mhm.
is on social. And if it doesn't fit 100%, then they need to bin it and go back to the drawing board. But
Yeah.
it at least it helps them. It alleviates the pressure and it protects your brand's reputation while
Mhm.
giving them enough freedom to sound authentic and to be human and to create those relationships and to be people.
Mhm. Absolutely. So, talking about people, we were having a conversation in the office here, and we're not 100% settled on this, but we have this instinct that I was born in the 80s. I know I look like I was probably born in the 60s, but I was definitely born in the 80s, right? um, Social media was kind of like something that came to me in early adulthood. The generation below us, it came to them in like early childhood. And then you've got a generation where they've had it since birth. It's always been there. I think, and I could upset a lot of people, and you don't have to answer here in case I get you in trouble. I think my generation and the generation before were or still are to some degree a little bit naive about the sizzle of social media. But I think the new generation coming through can spot these people who are just like faking it till you make it on social media and just all sizzle. It's like they were born to spot it.
That's I'm so glad you've opened this conversation because it's by far my favorite topic. It is, how does Gen Z, uh, you know, act on social media? What do they expect of it, and how do they expect brands to act and to portray themselves? And I actually think that the generations to come after the millennials,
Mhm.
us, after the millennials, I think, like you said, these are generations that have a much higher, um, they demand much more out of brands in
Mhm.
terms of authenticity, in terms of purpose, in terms of mission. But I think most of all, in terms of values.
Mhm.
And because purpose is sort of, it's the buzzword of not the year, but probably the decade, right?
Mhm.
Companies, they understand purpose up to the C-suite. We can now be safely assured that all of the Fortune 100 companies and all the Fortune 500 companies probably understand the need for purpose, right? And that's kind of done and dusted. And I would say that's the lowest common denominator right now. I think the next step will be Gen Z not accepting just purpose, because purpose will be, it's a great compass for you to develop product. It's a great compass for you to steer your workforce in the right direction and build company culture. But as a consumer, who really wears the shirt of purpose? I mean, us as 90s kids, we wore brands because we identified, because the design of the brand, because the voice of the brand somehow made us identify with it, sort of completed our personal identity, right?
Mhm.
In our imaginarium, sort of in
Yeah.
a nostalgic way. Kids today, well, kids, I say kids, but young people today, that's no longer the case, because communication from brands is no longer a one-way street. There is now a conversation, right, with
Mhm.
social media, and they were born used to this conversation. So for them, their relationship with brands, they will need to understand what brands give them back, so that they can identify with them. So logos, brand looks and brand tone of voice, that no longer means anything to this generation. They want values.
Yeah.
What is this company doing apart from selling a product and making a profit that I can identify with in my set of values?
Mhm.
And I think that's a lot of what we're seeing with the Great Resignation, is people taking a step back and saying, I no longer, my employer no longer reflects my values and what I prioritize as a person in a deeper, meaningful way. So companies need to completely rethink the way they do business. It's no longer just about purpose. Purpose is great to steer them in the right direction, but what are your values?
Mhm.
What are you here to do? And I was looking at how companies are stepping in for governments in their shortcomings regarding climate. Right,
Mhm.
business is stepping in for governments when
Mhm.
it comes to doing good on climate. I would put it out there, and this is just my intuition, that the next step we will see in a decade or so a very fine line between a company and an NGO.
Mhm.
Big companies, particularly those who are established brands and that want to remain relevant, will have to have a very solid value strategy to society in things like education, in things like climate, etc. But I digress.
No, but you've got a good point there, because social media has created this two-way relationship. And if you think about it, we rewind to the 90s.
Mhm.
Yeah, if brand puts an advert out, brand puts newspaper adverts out, newspaper wouldn't put anything out against the brand because they'd lose their advertising bucks. Um, TV commercial, new TV news won't put anything out that compromises that. So if a brand decides we're going to greenwash or we're going to diversity wash or anything like that, they can get called out, and suddenly the voice of the consumer can make, and I don't think people get this, that the voice of the consumer can make a big multinational change their approach.
Oh yeah, and we've seen it. We've seen it with so many already.
Yeah.
And because it's not just the consumer, mind you, because when you look specifically at social media, brands have to realize that it's not just the consumer that's looking at them; it's the investors
Mhm.
as well. The investors are on social media.
Yeah.
They're looking at what you say, and investors now invest uh, aligning with their own values and
Mhm.
their own purpose.
And
Their values and their beliefs.
it's a little bit of a naughty one, but do you remember the American retail chain? I can't remember the name of them now. And a Reddit, people were shorting this, the big institutional investors were shorting this company on the stock market, and its value was collapsing. And then a load of people on Reddit decided
GameStop.
to club GameStop, yeah. And they basically, all these institutional investors lost money.
Mhm.
So you're right. It is a two-way relationship. And if you put something on the tin, you have to have it in. So you have to deliver the goods, not just in terms of your product, but in terms of the way what you say. You can't just pander to a trend anymore.
No,
because it's there.
no, you can't jump on bandwagons anymore.
Yeah.
And you see that very clearly when you look at, for instance, how Nike, what Nike did with what's the player's name again? Colin.
Oh, you've got me now. I know what you're on about, but I can't remember the guy's name.
Can't remember his surname either. But anyway, what Nike did there was they created this campaign which is true to their brand values, and that worked out really well for them. And then you look at Pepsi and the faux pas with Kendall Jenner. I think it's Kendall.
Yeah.
With Kendall Jenner, and you see that was a bit like it was a trend spotting exercise, and it failed because it wasn't true to their own values and it wasn't authentic, didn't come from the right place. And that Gen Z can spot that from a distance, and they will be called out. Companies will be called out. So there's no more sort of looking at trends and jumping on them. No, there is staying true to who you are as a company, what your core purpose is, what your core values are, what your culture is about, and staying true to them and staying authentic to them, and build it, and they will come, most definitely. And it's not just going to be your customers, it's going to be your investors, it's going to be your employees as well. You're going to build a better workforce because you're speaking to their own values. So yeah, we live in fascinating times. And I guess that comes down to what the content you put out on social media as well, and the way you approach social media communications. There's this idea of pumping content out, of using it as, and I know you support this idea as well, because I've heard you in the past talk about this sort of one-way communication of spilling out our values or our purpose as a company on social media and then not engaging. I'm a big advocate of every time you post something out on social media as a company, anything you put out, there has to be an engagement strategy. You need to be ready as a company to engage with everyone who continues that conversation, because what you're doing is you're creating a conversation with that post, whether you like it or not. So it's your responsibility as a moderator to continue to keep that conversation going.
Yeah, and I say this, I have a group of people on some of our programs, and I say, if your social media is absolutely zilch, you've got to build a community. People who are choosing to invest into spending time following, commenting, liking, sharing. If they think that nobody wants to be somebody's, amplifier. So they're doing it because, one, they agree with you, one, they believe in you, but actually they have a level of relationship with you. Now you can't have everybody come and tour your factories and, know you all by name. Yeah. But you can build that relationship where they feel like, I'm part of this.
Yeah. And that's a good point. It's the everyone, right? Why everyone? That's the other sort of fallacy of social media marketers at the moment. It's the illusion of reach.
Yeah.
And you go like, we need to, it's the old mantra. If you try to appeal to everyone, you appeal to no one. And that's absolutely true, always.
Yeah.
And you go back to, Seth Godin's smallest viable audience, or, the audience of one, and all these really powerful concepts of finding your niche and sticking to it. And that's kind of what we want to do at Coca-Cola HBC as well. Is we're not here for widespread brand awareness. That's not our game. What we want is to use social media to achieve key business objectives for the wider company. Social media is here to support that. And to support that, we need to identify where our niche stakeholders are and use social media to create conversations with them. And that's what we're here to do.
Yeah. And do you know what? We're on the same wavelength. I did a video yesterday about the 5 levels of social authority. And I'm sure there's other versions of this, but there's the people at one end who they have no authority. They're just churning out sales pitches. And it's like, buy my stuff. This is my message. Broadcasters, basically. Yeah. And then at the other end, you have the influencers, and they're like, I put a post out and loads of people do something on my command. Yeah. And I mean that in the truest sense of people who actually can put a post out and people actually do it. There's a whole space between there that you can occupy, but a lot of people think, I have to be up there. Yeah, I have to be up there. And I argue there's a sweet spot where you've got the right group of people for your goal. And that might be 200 people. That might be all you need. It might be 10,000 people. And, I don't know how many yours would be, but it doesn't matter about the millions. It's just, how big does your audience need to be to support your goals and invest in that audience?
Precisely. And be helpful to them. And that actually, you've touched in a really important topic for me, which is influences.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe that the concept of what an influencer has already started to change, but will change dramatically in the coming years. Because I don't believe in, and this is anecdotal, but I don't believe in the efficacy of big star influencer campaigns. And that's because I was listening to a really curious take from Gary V on the Super Bowl ads the other day. And they were talking about the Larry David spot on the Super Bowl. And and Gary V was scratching his head saying, I remember Larry David, I just don't remember what the brand was. And I think that's such for me personally, that's always the case. I get distracted by celebrity influences, and I forget what the brand is that they're supposed to be representing. So influencer campaigns, usually, they are most useful to the influencers themselves.
Yeah. Can I give you an example of this? And it's a bit more of a smaller business context, but I'll give you an example that this works in other scenarios. So I encourage companies, one of the ways they can build trust and authority and showcase their expertise is to give free value in whatever way they can. So one of the great ways, it may not apply in your scenario, of course, but if you're a consultant or a coach or a marketing consultant, social media marketer, people have to believe that you can do what you say you can do. They got to look you in the eyes and go, I think you're the right choice. So I said to them, you've got to have somehow a connection where they can see and experience you to understand you're credible and know what you're doing. So I say, do a webinar. Don't sell on it. Just give value. Show them how to build a post or show them how to understand the situation better. Great way to get that kind of interaction and exposure. And they're really easy to do. And this one company was resisting doing it in that way because they wanted big numbers. So they got a guest on. Yeah. So they brought in a well-known name, not megastar, but a well-known name in their industry to come in and do a talk. And they're thinking, we get that person in and we get that crowd. And now that crowd like us. They did it against my advice. They got 900 people. So they were like, they were ready to die and go to heaven. It was that great for them. All the feedback. It was a really insightful talk from such and such.
Yeah.
And it's the same principle you're talking about. Is the name is a distraction.
No one remembers the sponsor, right?
Yeah.
Who remembers the sponsor? And why should they? I mean, unless you are giving value as a company, as a brand, then you should not be remembered for whatever it is that you're setting up. And that's precisely it. I mean, I think you're spot on when you talk about providing free value. And I'm talking about these solopreneurs and these smaller businesses that are trying to make it. I think absolutely give content away for free. Give valuable content away for free, because that is, and to your smallest viable audience, build that smallest viable audience, because that's how you become a subject matter expert. And those are going to be your influencers.
Yeah.
Those are going to be the people who talk to other people about how much they trust you,
Yeah.
right? And then if they want to buy a product and you happen to be selling it, or if they need a service that you happen to be providing, they'll spend their money on you because the relationship and the trust is already there.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Duarte, what's your exciting plan for social media for the next 6 months? What are you really? Do you have any goals that you're looking to achieve?
I mean, it's a tough question because, secrets of the trade and all. But I can tell you that I've been on this job for three and a half months, something like that. So I'm still getting my feet under the table. I'm building the strategy right now for Coca-Cola HPC. So I have a few exciting ideas for the brand, and I can tell you with a certain degree of caution, because I think this is going to take flight, but you can never be sure, that I want us to be, if one of our goals is to become a subject matter expert and the sort of the industry leader when it comes to sustainability, right?
Mhm.
The voice, then my thought process was, okay, we can either go out to the rooftop, which is arguably paid advertising,
Yeah.
or paid social posts, and shout as loud as we can that we have just ranked really high on the DJSI or the S&P, or we can create a platform to our smallest viable audience, to the sustainability leaders within our industry,
Mhm.
like a podcast, for
Mhm.
instance, where we invite these leaders to come in to talk about their sustainability efforts. We hear what other companies are doing within our industry regarding sustainability, and we become a platform where other people come to us. By building that platform, what you're doing essentially is you are cementing your reputation and you are creating trust in your brand
Mhm.
in the sustainability area.
Mhm.
So, I mean, this is one example of something we could do. I'm not saying we will do it, but it's one idea that I've entertained, and there's more like that.
Mhm. I think the
Yeah,
great thing about organic is, paid does give you a very big megaphone. It's very expensive, but it gives you a very big megaphone. But one of the things about organic, just to kind of come full circle on your trust piece, is people discover the content. And so people approach it in a different way than an ad. Oh, you're putting this in front of me because you want something, versus I found this, so it's interesting. There's almost like this automatic perception that an ad, there's a hidden agenda, which there is.
and yeah. Again, we are exactly in the same wavelength here. I'm Mr. Organic. I'm
Mhm.
from food to drinks to everything, but especially on social media, I always prefer organic
Mhm.
because did you know? And this
You mean
is
you don't
anecdotal.
trust the guy with the Lamborghini who wants to just help you?
Does he even drive that Lamborghini?
Well, he does for an hour whilst he's
Yeah,
renting it.
exactly. But anecdotally, look at this. I read this the other day, and it cracked me up. Did you know that you're more likely to be trained as a Navy SEAL than you are to click on a banner ad? This came from LinkedIn Marketing Solutions, so I trust that it's true. But it is the funniest, uh, um, you know, reflection of what paid social media ads are. I mean, unless you do ABM, account-based marketing, really seriously, and you're a B2B, and that in that way paid is useful because you're not targeting for reach, you're targeting a specific person
Yeah.
or a specific set of people with a specific message. That's fine. That's smart paid. But boosting posts on Facebook, that gets you nothing.
Mhm.
And I know why people do it, because you got a little button there that says boost. How enticing is that, right?
Yeah.
Ooh, you go and you go, oh, it's just clicking here and it'll boost the post for me. I love Boost. Let's do it. It does nothing for you, so don't do it. Build an organic social media strategy, because an organic social media strategy is your foundation of trust right there.
Yeah.
That's your smallest viable audience. Those are the people who will be champions for your brand. That's how you will manage to scale up in time. And then eventually, when you've got that community, when you've set your values as a brand and you've communicated them to the people that matter to you, then sure, do a bit of paid for reach if you want. That's fine. But I don't care about paid, and I don't care about reach personally.
Ads won't replace a community.
Absolutely not.
Yeah.
Never. Because ultimately, what's the conversion rate there? And even if there is a conversion rate, what's the return on investment? Ads are expensive. They'll become more expensive with time. So, quoting, I think it's Mark Twain who said something like, reports on the death of, well, in this case, organic, have been wildly exaggerated. I agree.
Yeah.
I think that organic is here to stay. And I don't think this pay-to-play tendency is going to take over social media like everyone thinks it will.
And if you look, there's somebody I find really insightful, Mark Ritson. He's a bit provocative, but he's common sense approach of top of the tree of all marketing is that top of mind word of mouth. You still can't beat it. It's the, even down to TV commercials and some of the big things that help you get the message out. He firmly believes in terms of the long-term benefit. Getting people to talk and respond to you because they've seen you is better than pushing something directly in front of people on social media. So I'm firmly with you there. Duarte, we are out of time, but this has been an absolute pleasure to have you on. I want to do this again, and we'll put the world to rights again. If people want to connect with you, I'll put your LinkedIn URL here because you're Mr. LinkedIn too. I'll put your links in there, but I really appreciate you coming on the podcast, and I'm looking forward to seeing what you get up to on social media. So thanks.
Listen, it was my pleasure. Thank you very much for having me, Dean. It was a great chat, really great chat. Thank you.